from the campus of Seton Hill University. This is the 2021 Griffins Baseball Season Preview Show. Here's Dan Flickinger and the head coach of Seton Hill University Baseball, Mark Marizaldi.
And hello, Griffin fans. We didn't know if we would ever get to this day, but we are here. It is time for the 2021 Seton Hill University Baseball Season Preview Show. I'm Dan Flickinger with the Westmoreland Sports Network, and to my left is the only head coach in the 17-year history of the Seton Hill baseball program. He is Mark Marizaldi. And Maz, wow, we have certainly been through a lot in the last year, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. We don't have a whole lot to talk about from last year, but this is always a big kickoff for me. We're so focused during like January and February, that day-to-day practice, and the season preview that we do every year kind of makes it a reality and reminds us like we're really close to game week. So it's exciting, and it's very realistic this time. We're pretty optimistic, and things are looking good for us to get on the field here in about a week and a half.
So. Well, yeah, Seton Hill will open the season against Shippensburg on March 6th. We'll have the doubleheader on video, weather permitting, here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. We have so much to get into. We will say we are going to be joined by Jamie Rabel, our player interview, and looking forward to hearing what Jamie has to say about this year's team and kind of what he went through as a student athlete last year. The last Seton Hill game we broadcast in any sport was your final game of the Florida trip, Coach. The 4-2 loss to Ashland. It was a great game. They come back at the end. But you guys come back from Florida with a 9-4 overall record. Little did we know coming home on the flight that the season would be over. So kind of take us through what you went through mentally when the news broke and just kind of how tough that was on you and on the team.
Yeah, actually that last day, I remember playing Ashland at the lineup card exchange, and Ashland's coach had mentioned to us that following week some teams were not making the trip to Florida. And then things started to become real. We started to realize, that COVID was bigger than we knew about, with teams canceling spring break trips, and even played that game, got on the plane, came home, and once we got back to campus, things really started to escalate. I think the cancellation of the NBA season really made it a reality for a lot of us, but we came back on a Saturday night. We're scheduled to play Saginaw Valley here on Friday, and I believe it was Thursday night, so about 5 days after our return to Greensburg, the season was canceled. And I think we're going to be maybe exactly at 365 days from our last game until we open up on March 6th.
Yeah, and it was crazy last year because I remember that too. They canceled the basketball tournament, March Madness NCAA tournament, and they canceled the season. And I remember at the time thinking, why are they canceling it so quickly? Why can't we wait at least a month or something? Little did we know that we'd still be in this a year later. It's just crazy to think about.
It is crazy, but I think we've all experienced so many emotions over the last 12 months, and I think right now gratitude is probably the biggest one that we need to embrace, the fact that we are going to be back on the field playing, and that's a result of a lot of hard work, dedication, changing of everything. Life has changed. A lot of people have made some adjustments and investments for us to get to this point, and we're very, very grateful for that.
I feel like adapt has been the biggest word probably since
most certainly.
spring.
Yeah, it's every day requires a new adaptation.
So what are some of the current challenges that you're kind of facing with COVID in terms of practice, wearing masks, how many guys you can have practice at a time? I mean, how will testing work as well? So what are some of the things you guys have to adjust to?
Well, initially I would have classified those as challenges because they were things that we were never used to, but I think we're all at the point now where we've accepted all of the new protocols and the new way of doing things in the world of athletics. So we had to go through sort of a phasing process to get back to a full team practice when our players returned in late January. We can only practice, I think, 15 guys at one time. And after about a week of no cases, we were able to progress into maybe half of the team. And then the third phase of that, by week 3, I believe, we were able to return to full team. Of course, masking is required for us to practice indoors. We have to have masks on most of the time outdoors as well. And right now our players are all being tested every other week. We have 50% of our team tested every other week. So in a 2-week span, every single player on our team is tested. So I believe that our university is doing everything within its power, both with resources, financially, everything, to put us in the most safe position to continue to play. And obviously a lot of credit goes to our players. These all students in college, and in particular student athletes, have had to make drastic changes to their habits, their behaviors, and just their social way of doing things. But those sacrifices are allowing us to get on the field, stay healthy, and avoid any outbreaks or spreads among our team.
With everyone having to leave campus last spring, I know you guys got together a lot over Zoom. I was fortunate to be part of one of those calls when former Pirates manager Clint Hurdle talked to your team, which I thought was really neat. But I know, you went over a lot of things virtually. You had alumni come in and virtually and talk to the team and everything and stay connected. So what were some of the things that you did in terms of Zoom meetings to kind of keep everybody together, make sure they're doing the right things?
Yeah, when the season came to an end in early March, it took us about a month to figure out what do we do from here. And Zoom was really...
There's no playbook for this.
There isn't.
For any of this, for anyone. I mean, it's sports or non-sports. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So there's a lot of trial and error. Mm-hmm. We had some ideas that were good and some that stunk, to be honest with you. But Zoom was, virtual meetings was really the only resource we had. And you had mentioned we tried to bring some guest speakers in. Coach Cronin is actually good friends with Karinchak, the closer for the Indians, and that was an interesting call. Nice. He spoke to all of our pitchers through Zoom. We were fortunate to have Clint Hurdle join us. But probably one of the greatest things we did was brought our alumni back into the fold and kind of, brought them in to speak virtually to a lot of our players on a variety of different career topics. I think we had 6 alumni calls, everywhere from guys who were in education, law enforcement, business, sales, law. So that was pretty cool. We knew that there was no baseball, but there were still ways that we could help our guys grow and develop. Our responsibility as coaches isn't really just to come out and win games, it's to prepare our guys for what's next in their life. And since we couldn't do that on the baseball field, I was pretty happy with the ways that we found to connect them with our alumni, but yet continue to kind of help them develop as people for what's next in their life.
Well, one of those alumni, I got to give a shout out. I ran into him the other day, John Murphy. What's up, Murph? I told him that I'd be talking with you soon to do our season preview, and he's one of those guys that's having a very successful life after Seton Hill baseball. He's a police officer in Greensburg. He said he has a son, maybe, which is scary. I don't know, but no, he's a great dude, and there are just so many. Maz, we even work with on almost a daily basis. Zach Hyde, who played here, is an athletic director, assistant athletic director at Latrobe. Ryan Hayden's athletic director at Jeanette. There's a lot of guys in law enforcement, but it seems like, when guys leave here, they're getting into good things. So.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how many guys have gone into law enforcement. I feel.
Yeah, there are a number of them.
I think I live a pretty straight life, but if we ever had that speeding ticket or something we needed help with, I think we have enough resources.
Oh, I was negotiating with Murph, so yeah. So I think I'm good there. You had to love the way you guys started the year last year. 9-4, you beat defending national champion Tampa. You played a number of nationally ranked teams on the spring break trip. You're coming back with that momentum, and then unfortunately the season just gets canceled. But I'm sure you had to feel, once you were going to jump into PSAC play, that you guys really had a lot of momentum going into it, right?
We did. I think we had some confidence because of the grueling schedule we played up front. Coming back from the spring trip and returning north, I felt like our guys had the confidence to compete against anyone. We were starting to get some guys back healthy. Unfortunately, we had lost Marshall McGraw on the Florida trip, but got Pat Monteverdi back on the mound, which was exciting, and our hitters were really starting to mesh. But it was very short-lived, and you're right, we did create a lot of momentum early in the season, but 12 months later, it's hard to carry that over. So I don't want to say we're starting from scratch, because we do bring back a lot of the players that were part of that early season success last year. But it's a new year, and we know that we know what we're capable of based on what we did last year, but we know we got to start that back up again.
So with COVID canceling the spring, the NCAA gave an extra year of eligibility to all spring players, which allowed all players to have an extra year, including the seniors that would have had their final year be last year. Now, some of those seniors I know moved on, Maz, whether they got jobs or what have you. But there were a couple of guys that came back, including Tommy Pellis. So what was that process like for some of those guys?
Well, it kind of smacked them in the face, because of the timing of it hitting in March. At that point, most of our seniors have at least an idea what's next in their lives, whether that be grad school, a job, whatever. So the only two seniors we did bring back was Carl Turner and Tommy Pellis, who both still had classes to finish their undergrad degree. So it worked out in their favor. They were coming back to Seton Hill for their education this year anyway. It just so happened they were gifted an extra season to play baseball. The other 9 seniors, they like I said, they were set up for the next chapter in their life, and just because they had an extra season, wasn't in the cards for them. So there's good things and bad things. Obviously, some of those seniors last year were awesome. We would love to have them back. But at the same time, the fact they didn't return opens up a lot of opportunities for juniors, sophomores, and even incoming freshmen.
Now, the seniors not only get an extra year, but obviously everybody does. So does that allow then, other guys to say, maybe I'll try grad school and play an extra year of baseball? I mean, is that conversations that take place?
Yeah, it is. More so right now, we've already had those conversations with all of our current seniors, to find out if they're coming back. And we're starting to help our juniors look at the options that are out there for them. But similar to last year, not many of our current seniors will be back for their 5th year next year. We have a huge senior class this year, about 18 guys that'll get their bachelor's degree. And as it looks right now, maybe 2, at most 3 of those guys will actually come back and use their 5th year. So it sounds great. Everyone wants to play the game for as long as they can, but there's a big financial and educational piece that have to fit for them to come back for that 5th season.
So let's talk about that group of seniors, Maz, moving on with their life's work, if you will. You look at a guy like Kalen Grimm, who was a solid leader for you for a number of years in the infield. Bailey Jamanis, I know he was kind of plagued with injuries, but I still remember the big hit that he got in the PSAC tournament. I think it was the first championship of those back-to-back championships in extra innings. That I think was against Lock Haven. I'm trying to think back now, that extra inning hit that he got. Excuse me, Tyler Zaleski, who had a really hot start a couple of years ago. I know he was plagued with some injuries. Parker Denny hit a few bombs on the hill for you for sure. Played really solid first base. You look at a guy like Mike Bria, who was injury plagued but was really a leader on that pitching staff, and you think about that one really good season that he had when you won the PSAC championship. Austin Brandell was solid behind the plate. He and Adam Bankovich, a couple of really good leaders there. And you have Brian Dabney, who pitched some innings for you, certainly out of the bullpen. So what do you kind of remember or what were you kind of think about that group and when you look back on their 4 years on the Hill?
Well, as a group, I think they have a tremendous legacy. You look at the 4 years they were here. A PSAC championship, another PSAC championship, a regional final appearance, and I think we were on our way to a pretty good season last year. So what those guys accomplished in 3 years or 4 years, actually, pretty interesting fact. Those guys never got knocked out of a PSAC tournament,
right?
In their entire career.
How
They won it, didn't finish it, and then didn't play it, But the thing is, you won't see any of their names scattered across our record books, but they're just winners. I mean, there's a reason we won every year they were here in our program. Super high character guys. The leadership, Adam Bankovich and Kalen Grimm, Parker Denny, those 3 guys in particular, the energy and leadership that they brought to our team every day. Now that they're gone, I see their impact on our players right now. Their names come up every day, it seems like, in practice. Hey, you remember when Grimm said this and Parker did this? So, statistically, maybe not a ton of contributions. Some guys played bigger roles certain years, like you mentioned, Bria's big season. But those guys have helped build our culture, strengthen our culture, and they left a pretty successful legacy here their 4 years.
With Parker gone now, who handles the pregame ritual for you guys?
I guess we'll find out.
Oh, we don't know yet. Big reveal on March 6th. Huh?
Yeah, when you know, I'll know.
We'll see how that's determined. When you look at, I guess, your biggest loss, Coach, the guy I haven't mentioned yet, you did mention him once, Pat Monteverdi, your top pitcher who appeared in just one game last year because of the season getting canceled. Kind of a bittersweet loss for you. He graduates from Seton Hill. He does have an extra year of eligibility left. He decides to transfer to Division I Texas Tech, and he immediately became their opening day starter. I mean, that's how good Pat is right now. It's just amazing. I know we'd love to see Pat in a Griffins uniform, but I'm sure you're happy for him too.
Yeah, it's a tremendous opportunity for him, both academically, for him to get his master's degree at Texas Tech, but ultimately, I think, as a great stepping stone to professional baseball for Pat. He certainly could have accomplished a lot here at Seton Hill, and I'm sure he would have gotten himself into professional baseball. Yeah. But what an amazing opportunity, something a lot of kids dream about, to pitch in the Big 12. And he's got such an incredible story, going from high school to Division III to Division II to Division I, and hopefully to professional baseball. So we're really excited for Pat. You got to do a lot of things right to win a baseball game in the PSAC, but I felt like if we could put him on the mound, it was almost like a automatic W. But really excited for the opportunity he has.
Well, let's talk about this year's team. Before we kind of break down the positions, what are some of the things in general that you like about this year's group, Matt?
The depth. We're just super deep all over the field on the mound. Every position. A lot of that is because of the big senior class that we have. So the combination of depth and experience is a good thing, but it's also, I think, a challenging thing. It creates incredible competition every day within practice, and it makes our job harder as a coach. A good problem to have when you have so many really good options. So the other thing, too, is this group has been through something special, I think. Going back about a little over a year ago, these guys experiencing the death of a teammate, McLean Mond. Mm-hmm. I think that had a huge impact on how we came out and played early last season. We had some special motivation. We were playing for a purpose stronger than I've ever experienced before, and I think a lot of that has carried over to this year. I felt like we were on a mission last year to honor McLean and play for him. And despite the fact that opportunity was taken away last season, I still feel like that's there. So this group is deep, they're connected, and I think they're very motivated this year.
Before we talk about the positions and the battles that are going on, you mentioned Mac, and I know you've added some things to the field to honor him, Matt.
Yeah, we had a couple of banners put up last year, and those banners remain up and will remain up. The generosity of our men's soccer program, they donated a couple of flags. One has been flying at our field ever since the 1-year anniversary of his passing about a month ago, and then the other flag we actually were able to give to McLean's parents.
Oh, great.
So, his memory is going to be here for a long, long time. We have stickers and patches that you'll see on our helmets and uniforms, and then and our flag that flies at the field too. So and actually we put his name on the lineup card this year, which I think is an honor to him, but it's also a reminder that he made a commitment to come to Seton Hill for 4 years, and we're going to honor that commitment as keeping him as part of our team.
And again, I think it's just incredible. And this is a kid that played one semester of baseball at Seton Hill.
Yeah, it had such an incredible impact on a lot of people.
Unbelievable. Well, Maz, let's start talking about this year's team and kind of breaking it down a little bit. This might take a while, but let's dive in, baby.
20 minutes in, we're starting to talk about
it. Well, let's start in the infield, right? Third base, Tommy Pellis returns, obviously transferred in from Penn prior to the 2019 season, local guy out of Greensburg Central Catholic. Last year, he was hitting .431 with 15 RBIs. A couple years ago, he was a first-team All-PSAC West selection. So he comes back. We already mentioned him coming back, but what do you expect from Tommy this season?
I expect him to hit. I think everybody does. And he's matured a lot. And another guy who's had an interesting road. He went to Penn, and his career never really took off and found himself bouncing around from position to position. And I think he really settled in here at Seton Hill. his first season a couple of years ago, but he had his struggles too at different times. We went into the postseason tournament a couple of years ago, and he wasn't starting for us and came off the bench. But he's matured a lot, and I think it's because he's had so many failures, and he took all those failures the right way and has really grown. And he's gotten to a point where he's just comfortable with his swing. He's comfortable with who he is, and he's really emerged as a great leader for our team. And I think what you'll see is maybe a super utility player. We've experimented playing him at second base a little bit, and I think you'll see him play the outfield as well. He's a guy that his bat's
He played the outfield at Penn, correct?
He did. Yeah, he did. So we're just finding ways to make sure we can keep him in a lineup.
Now, he's obviously not the only third baseman you have coming back. We saw Jack Oberdorf get some starts over there last year, and he hit the ball pretty well in his limited time. He was 8 for 20 last year. Only a sophomore from Greensburg-Salem, also a local guy. So how will he kind of figure into the plans this year?
Well, Jack's got two things that I think set him apart from a lot of other people, and that's his knowledge of the game. He's got some great intangibles. He's really savvy, and he's an elite defender too. Jack's bat is probably going to play in the middle of the order for us, but he also brings, those intangibles and great defense. So I think he's going to prove that he's one of the best third basemen in the PSAC. And I think he's going to help us offensively somewhere in the middle.
Is anybody else competing at third base, at least for some ABs? Any younger guys, newcomers, anything?
Yeah, we have some younger guys that I think have come up as third basemen, Brett Morris, Eli Snyder. But I think we're transitioning those guys more over to first just because Jack looks like a solid option at third. And Colin Lohman is a guy who's been around for 4 years, but you haven't seen his name in a lot of box scores. He had a great fall for us. He's really... number one, stayed healthy, and that's allowed him to compete at a pretty good level. He's a super utility guy too. Probably the strongest arm on the team throughout the infield, so he's an option at third base, short, and second.
And he might be a guy you could put in at the end of the game for defense, that type of thing?
Yeah, most certainly. Yep.
Now at shortstop, Owen Sable really splashed onto the season last year as just a freshman, starting 9 games. He batted .257. He really, I thought that was a little bit deceiving. I thought he hit maybe a little better than .257, but 8 runs scored, 5 RBIs, made just 3 errors. It's not often, Maz, where you see a freshman come in and get innings away from a senior, but that's what he did last year, and he played pretty well for it. I was really interested to see how he would finish, or even start, for goodness sakes, last year. But what do you expect from him this year?
Well, I agree, Dan. I was really anxious to see Owen and Jack because right at the end of that Florida trip, they sort of beat out some upperclassmen, and you wanted to see how that was going to play out. But he's elite defensively, and if you watch a lot of PSAC baseball this spring, I think he's going to stand out. I think he also has got to see PSAC pitching more regularly. That'll be a big adjustment for him to be a consistent offensive producer, but we're really excited about him being our shortstop this year and hopefully into the future.
Let's look at the other middle infield position. Junior Isaiah DeAndrith returns to man second base, and much like Sable was going to, DeAndrith got a lot of playing time as a freshman, and then of course coming back for his sophomore year last year, he batted .377 in 13 games, 7 RBIs, 10 runs scored. Penciling him into the middle of the lineup again this year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the impact Zay's made on our offense as a freshman and a sophomore has been pretty significant, and I think he'll do that again this year. A little different from Jack and Owen. Teams in the PSAC don't know about those guys, but I think everybody knows Isaiah. But yeah, he'll continue to be a run producer for us in the middle of the lineup and probably get most of his innings at second base this year.
I think it's really neat too. Not that we don't love the guys from outside of the area, because you've had a ton that have done big things here, but if you have an infield where Oberdorf's at third, you have Sable at short, DeAndrith at second, we have a little Westmoreland County flavor there.
Yeah.
And they're all pretty darn good players too.
Yep.
So,
and if Tanner Freilic's at first,
yeah, right, we have all Whippeal, and all Whippeal infield.
Yeah,
that'll be neat. We'll be talking with Jamie Rabel, as I mentioned. Jamie's a guy who has been a great utility infielder for you. Just a smart baseball player, can play solid defense, pinch run. I mean, he really is a leader on this team. Do you kind of see him filling that role again this year for you?
I do. He's as tough as they come. He'll do whatever you ask, and he'll do it, 1,000%, 100 miles an hour. But I've seen his confidence rise a little bit. He was a guy that was, a little bit undersized coming in as a freshman, but he's worked his tail off to get stronger, bigger, faster, and just a dependable guy that you stick him in anywhere, any role that you had mentioned, and he's going to give you some great leadership, and he's going to bring some great energy. So I think Jamie can play specifically up the middle, but he can do a lot of different things for us.
Now, Parker Denny was your starting first baseman for really the last 2 seasons, really developed into a solid defensive first baseman, and we all know about the pop in his bat. But what does first base now turn into? I know Tanner's been taking some time there, and instead of being behind the plate. So what's kind of your position, or your plan, I should say, for first base?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that is a position that we might shuffle around a little bit because there's a lot of candidates. And I hate doing that at first base, but Tanner does have the flexibility to catch a little bit for us, DH, play first base. And a healthy Tyler Peterson is in that mix too. He is very similar to Tanner where he can catch and play first base. I think those are the 2 guys you'll see over there the most. And then behind them, Danny Williams is a senior for us. A little bit different. He's a left-handed bat, so he brings something different to the table for us. And then Eli Snyder is a freshman who we think has a really bright future swinging the bat. Needs to be a little bit more experienced at first base because he was a third baseman in high school. And then Brett Morris is a guy who's been injured, who we've transitioned to first base too. So a lot of options over there. And I hate taking the approach of let's just stick a guy over at first base that can hit, because you mentioned Zach Hyde a little bit earlier. Wow, that for as good as a hitter as he was saved so many hits and so many runs for us. So it's a position we don't want to take for granted, and we understand that defense has got to be pretty consistent over there. And I think Tanner and Tyler probably provide that for us.
No doubt. And you mentioned Eli Snyder, a freshman who really hit the heck out of the ball, I know, in high school at South Fayette. Are there any guys that you expect to, maybe even break through as getting some at-bats at DH to start out, or any younger guys that we may see get some at-bats?
To be honest with you, Dan, probably not on the offensive side or positionally, but most certainly on the mound. We've got some really exciting young pitchers that I'm almost positive will fill some good roles for us.
We'll get to that. We'll get to the pitchers. Let's talk about your plan behind the dish. Again, I know Tanner's going to bounce back and forth from catcher to first base, but I want to talk about his really incredible start last year, and it was awesome to see because Tanner's such a great guy. He was helping us out. I mentioned last year running cameras when he was injured, and I couldn't wait to see him actually get to play because, again, fighting through that back injury, and man, he was hitting .333 at 3 home runs, 12 RBIs, and 12 starts last year. He threw a kid out, I remember, against Tampa, stealing second base. He was just doing every little thing right, it seemed like. But I know you have some other guys in the mix as well with losing Adam Bankovich and Austin Brandell. So what's kind of the plan behind the dish? Yeah,
that's a position we were pretty nervous when you lose Bankovich and Brandell, who are 2 guys in the same class that caught a lot during their 4 years. We needed to have some quick fixes back there. And so we brought in Vinny Ralso as a transfer from Alderson Broadus originally. He's from Pittsburgh Central Catholic, so we had known him. Had a great 2 years down at AD. We're hoping that success translates to the PSAC. He's a very dependable backstop. He'll probably get a lot of innings back there for us. We have a freshman who we're excited about him and his growth, Zach Ramich, who's from Johnstown, Bishop McCourt. He's going to be an outstanding defensive catcher. And then we have Jared Matty, who's a junior. He's been around a while for us, too. So we have 5 different options behind the plate. I think you'll see probably, Ralso might get the bulk of the work back there, but there's some other capable guys, too.
Well, let's talk about the outfielders. When you look around the outfield for Seton Hill, it has to start with a couple of guys in Jordan Fedor and Derek Orndorff. But Fedor hit .391 last year, 11 RBIs. In the limited amount of time that he got to the plate. Derek Orndorff was great defensively last year and obviously has that speed out of the box, which is great. Brandon Klein obviously has got a lot of starts out there. You have Carl Turner, who came back last year as a Griffin. Luke Hudson, I know a promising younger guy. So kind of talk about the mix right now and what's your plan for the outfield?
Well, there's a lot of experience out there. We have 5 senior outfielders. Plus Brandon Klein, who's a junior, who played a lot. The athleticism is unbelievable. We have some freaks out there, some guys that can run well, great arms, and obviously swing it. It's going to be a battle. I mean, we could rattle off 6 different guys that could all start at any time. So what we're hoping is that guys don't try to beat each other out, but collectively as a group, we want them all to work together, where it doesn't matter who's playing or who gets the credit. We're just going to have 3 awesome outfielders in the game every game, and it's probably going to rotate, which is a good thing. We have some options to maybe make some defensive replacements, keep guys in that are more offensive. But yeah, it's hard to single any of them out because they're all going to be in the mix.
Well, if you want to beat Tampa, you got to do some special things. And I want to talk about Marshall McGraw, but he had a great start. But Orndorff made 2 great catches in that game. The one was even better than the other one. I mean, to see him out there kind of reminded me of Taylor Schmidt, of course, who played here too. Wow. So it's going to be a lot of fun, I think, watching those guys chase down some fly balls and line drives in the air.
Yeah, that's another thing about last season ending. You saw some glimpses of some incredible outfield play from Derek Orndorff. I mean, game-changing. And that's a tribute to his athleticism. It would have been really exciting to see how that progressed throughout the season. But I think we'll have an opportunity to see Derek play a lot of center field for us this year.
So that's the position players. Let's move to the pitching staff. And obviously, when you lose a guy like Pat Monteverdi, it's very difficult. But I guess the one silver lining is you kind of been without Pat for a couple years because of him having Tommy John. And I know he returned last year, but he only was able to pitch in 1 game because the season got canceled. So maybe that allowed some other guys to get some innings, and now they have a little bit more experience. But certainly one guy that got off to an amazing start last year was Jared Kolar, who's now in his senior year, which makes me feel really old, by the way. I feel like he was just pitching Latrobe to a state championship, and now he's a senior.
You are old.
I know, right? But he still will always be older. So I got that on you. 3-0 record last year, 31 strikeouts in 23 innings. You only gave up 1 earned run in 23 innings. I know he was a solid pitcher his first 2 years, but he seemed like he really took a step last year. And what do you kind of see for him this year?
Well, it's hard not to expect Jared to be great. Like you said, going all the way back to high school, winning state championships, like he just wins. And he does it in such a consistent way. Every day he's the same Jared. A guy who goes about his business, knows what it takes to win, and there's no fluff or there's no flash there. He's just down to business every time we put him on the mound. So he's kind of earned the right to be our number 1 pitcher, especially after the season he started off with last year. I think the key for Jared this year, people know about him a little bit more. They kind of know he's a 4-pitch guy. They know he's that high arm slot guy, so he's a little bit different than most pitchers. He's not going to surprise anybody. So I think this year for Jared, it's all about just working ahead of hitters and just suffocating them exactly like he did to guys at the beginning of last year, being a strike thrower with 4 different pitches.
Well, other than Jared, there's certainly some other veteran pitchers, Mazzy, you bring back. Seniors Ben Vicini and George Coyle. Both of those guys have logged a lot of innings. Even some as freshmen. Heavily leaning on those 2 guys this year?
Yeah, I think so. Ben has filled more of a bullpen role for us the last couple of years, but man, he's gotten better and better and better to the point where he's a legitimate option to be in the starting rotation for us right now. And Coyle, similar to Jared Kolar, we kind of know what we're going to get out of George. He's going to really be competitive for 5 to 7 innings every time you put him out there. Maybe not be as high of a strikeout guy as some other guys, but he's not going to hurt himself. He's going to fill up the strike zone and just compete at a high level. So those are the things you get from seniors, where if we put this guy out there, this is what we're going to get, that dependability. And that's what I think Jared, George, and Ben all bring is some good dependability at the front end of the rotation for us.
And we will talk about some of those young arms that have you excited, but I want to talk about some of the experienced guys coming back in the bullpen for you, Maz. I mean, obviously, Neil McDermott is in his 4th year. You have Caden Wood, Kevin Voppel, who I believe pitched against Tampa last year, correct?
He did.
Yeah, we had him on our postgame. Peyton Reisman. So those guys, coming out of the bullpen, what do you kind of see from them?
Well, we've been having this discussion a lot in the last 2 weeks because we're starting live hitters and live pitchers, and it seems like I could rattle off about 12 or 15 guys on our team. He's 85 to 88 miles an hour and can throw a good breaking ball. That's like our entire bullpen, which is good.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good arsenal of pitching to have, but no one's really separated themselves from anyone else. So we have that challenge as coaches of we have a lot of good arms, and that's good to have depth, but we got to figure out how to use those guys. You mentioned Reisman, you mentioned Voppel, two left-handed guys, so they're a little bit different. I think Reisman's probably going to be a totally different look lefty for us out of the bullpen. He's 6'7", absolute hammer of a breaking ball. So that's a different look that we don't have on our team. That means he can fill a pretty significant role for us. Kevin Voppel was another guy that would have been exciting to see how he progressed through the season last year. He showed some glimpses, beating the best team in the country. Kevin's kind of a swing guy for us. He could be both a starter and a reliever. Just a matter of building his pitch count up. And you mentioned McDermott. Neil's a guy that got off to a tremendous start of his career, as a freshman. He's had some hiccups along the way, has struggled a little bit with command, but there's nobody you're going to find that works harder, is a better teammate, and is passionate about what he's trying to do. So he's been a lot better lately, throwing the heck out of the baseball, low 90s velocity. So there's a role for Neil. We just got to figure out where he fits as well. Caden Wood is kind of along the same lines as some of our starters. You know what you're going to get out of him. He's going to be a mid-80s guy that competes his tail off, and he has that big game experience. We use him on the back end of games in years past, not because he's going to blow anybody's doors off, but he's unfazed. No pressure. He embraces being the guy on the mound when the game's on the line. So I think he fits that back end role pretty good for us.
Now, one of the guys that I know is a big wild card for you this year is Marshall McGraw, who we talked about Jared Kolar getting off to a great start. I mean, Marshall was off to a great start last year as well. He helped beat the defending national champion Tampa Spartans last year. Unfortunately, that was the same game that he was having an elbow issue and eventually got Tommy John surgery. And I know that he's on the mend right now, on the comeback trail. So where's Marshall at right now with his progress coming back?
Well, the good thing is we don't have to rush him back. Of course, our team's going to be better with him as an option, but we've got some other guys that are going to hold things in check until he can come back and assume some type of role, either as a starter or reliever. He faced live hitters for the first time this past week. So 11 months from the date of his surgery, and he's not, I wouldn't say he's in midseason form, but the arm strength is there, the stuff is there. It's just a matter of building up his endurance right now. So I'm hopeful and pretty optimistic by the time we open PSAC play, you'll see Marshall on the mound for us.
So who are some of those guys that you want to talk about in terms of the young arms that maybe we didn't hit on yet?
Well, we have we have 5 freshman arms, actually 6 freshman arms that have really just raised their game to be even with some of our upperclassmen, and that's a hard thing to do, Yeah. But I think they've competed just as well as any of the returning players we have. Andino Vecchiola is a left-hander from Laurel Highlands, the only lefty besides Voppel and Reisman on our staff. He's a little bit different, big sweep and breaking ball guy, competes really well. How much of a role he has this year, I'm not sure, but man, it's been exciting. He's added 15 to 20 pounds since he got here in the fall, and his game is continuing to climb each month. We're pretty excited about Aiden Layton. He's a hard-throwing right-hander out of Bishop McCourt. Similar to Andino and the rest of our freshmen, he's put on about 20 pounds. The weight room has done absolute wonders for some of these freshmen.
Those guys must be working hard, too, to put on the muscle, right?
They are. Yeah. I also think we recruited like the skinniest freshman class ever. So there's a lot.
So they have room to grow.
Yeah, that room to grow definitely applied to these guys. But like you said, they've put the work in in a short period of time to go from those skinny freshmen to now like legit options to throw in PSAC games their first year. Brendan Gray is a right-hander from South Park. John McCullough is a right-hander from Seneca Valley. I think both of those guys, they have starter stuff, if that makes sense. They have the ability to throw a lot of pitches, endurance type. We want to build those guys up as starters. They've competed really well, mid-80s guys that have really good command and composure. And then 2 other relievers, Mike Marinchak from Ligonier Valley and Brandon Bergert, who's from Ohio. Both of those guys showed a lot of great promise in the fall.
Have you played any pickup basketball games with Mike Marinchak yet, by the way?
I've seen him. No, I've seen him. Yeah, he had to be a tough choice, him giving up hoops to play baseball.
I was going to say, once they bring back intramurals, I think he might dominate.
Yeah. Yeah, so that stable of those 6 freshman arms, again, there's not a lot of pressure on those guys because fortunately they're surrounded by some juniors and seniors, which I think has helped them grow. But it's a group that I think has some pitchability right away this year.
So, Matt, as we talk about a couple of other things to round up our season preview show, and again, we'll be talking with Jamie Rabel here in just a few minutes. I'm just curious, when you lose a year like that last year, is it a concern? And I know everyone's is going through it and has gone through it, but to lose a year maybe of like development or evaluation on your half of it, seeing guys and seeing what you have for the future and that kind of thing. I know everyone's going through the same thing, obviously, but does that hurt?
I think it only hurts if you let it hurt or if you use it as an excuse. We've had to work really hard. When I say we, all the credit goes to Tim Cronin and Tyler Sullivan. I don't want to say we've made up for lost time because I don't know if you can do that, but the time that we did have with our guys in the fall and in the last 4 or 5 weeks we've been practicing, I feel like we've made the absolute most of it in terms of developing them, but at the same time doing our job as coaches and evaluating them in terms of how can we best use these guys.
Let me ask it a different way. I mean, did you have to change anything in the fall? That normally, did you do some? Obviously with COVID protocols, there was some things differently, but even how you trained and that kind of stuff.
Drastically.
Yeah.
In the fall, that's your time you want to go see the guys compete. Let's inter-squad as much as we can, find out what we have, see how guys compete. We weren't able to do that in the fall. We never had the platform to just have all of our 50 guys out there at the same time.
Right.
So we had to kind of evaluate on other terms like batting practice and drill work and bullpens and kind of get an idea. We could tell their skills, but can they compete and get people out in the game? That's something we're trying to figure out right now. Fortunately, we had a lot of time in the weight room, and that was a time to really not just develop guys physically, but see what are they capable of. Do they have that energy and that fearlessness to get in there and work every day in the weight room? So you could tell a little bit about kids' personalities and their competitiveness in the weight room, but like you said, we missed out on a lot of evaluation. A lot of our guys didn't play baseball last summer either, so we didn't even have a summer season we could evaluate them on.
And I want to add Florida into that mix too, because every year we always talk about how much of an advantage going to Florida is. So many games in so little days, and you can evaluate so many guys. And this year it's not going to happen. Again, I'm not trying to be negative because we're playing baseball. That's the most important thing. But as a coaching staff, I'm sure you have to change up some.
No doubt. And this year in Division II, we got cut back from 50 games to 40.
Right.
Those 10 extra games, like you mentioned, typically happen in the beginning of the year in Florida to see guys, to evaluate, find out what you have, and we just don't have that opportunity this year.
Well, and I'm being selfish. I didn't get to go to Florida this year. It's very sad. We got to be freezing. Although this week's pretty good.
Yeah.
The weather's pretty good this week, so hopefully that'll continue.
Well, after we go to Cary in June.
Oh well, yeah. I already have the hotel room.
Go right down to Florida and celebrate.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, I'm going to hold you to that.
That works.
I ask you this every year, but and I know we probably touched on some of these guys already, but who's a guy that came in the fall, maybe the preseason, that just really had a really good fall for you? Maybe a guy that you didn't expect, or a young guy that kind of came out and really performed well in the fall. Maybe the preseason coming into this year.
Good question. Always one that should be asked.
Yes, I do ask it yearly.
Kind of a sleeper pitcher for us, Dylan Bonzo. Guy had transferred in from junior college last year. Obviously, the season didn't give him many opportunities to pitch last year, but he had a great fall for us. Absolutely pounded the strike zone. He's developed really well. Let's see, some other guys that may have. I mentioned Colin Lohman had a great fall. He was a guy that was injured, never had a chance to prove himself. So he had a really good fall. Kenise Ejo is a transfer outfielder, grad transfer from Canisius, and he had a great fall for us too. Almost like he's kind of a bonus chip that we bring in, a guy with experience, and just plug him in, and he'll get the job done for us. Peyton Ferris is another guy. I wouldn't call him a surprise, but he's a guy that throughout the fall showed us that he's going to be a consistent strike thrower for us through a little bit of innings down in Florida. So those are just a couple of guys that I think kind of solidified their roles.
Seton Hill was picked to finish second in the preseason coaches poll. What's your expectation this year, Maz, for the PSAC? I always love getting kind of your perspective on that, just what you expect from all the teams. Is it kind of tough to evaluate since nobody played PSAC games last year?
Well, to correct you, Dan, I don't think we were picked second. I believe we were picked tied for first.
Oh my gosh!
How could I make that? Is that
how
correct?
could I make that mistake? Well, I knew we were going to finish first anyway. I mean, that's not the point.
But the team that we were picked tied for first with said they were picked first, and that's a whole different.
Of course they did.
So anyway. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of hard. We didn't play any PSAC games last year, so to know what a team has now, you have to go off of what you saw 2 years ago, and for a lot of teams, that's a lot different. I don't know. We've kind of taken the approach that like we're not even looking at our schedule when it's like, hey, who do we play this weekend? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Obviously, the polls have never really mattered to us because there's so many unknowns. I think this more than any other year, you just got to focus on yourselves, keeping everybody healthy, and whoever they say we're playing this weekend, great, we'll show up and we'll play.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I know you gave a shout out to your coaching staff already, but I want to do that too. Tim Cronin, our guy Sully, Tyler Sullivan, Mike Houck, and Adam Frieda, part of the staff this year too. That's pretty cool to have an alumni coming back and helping out.
Yeah, fortunately, the PSAC opened up an extra spot on the coaching staff for a volunteer, and Adam's got some other things going on, but we were able to have him in the weight room and on the field a little bit this fall. Always great having an alumni come back. Those guys are pretty invested in the program, so it's great to have some extra hands of practice with him. But I cannot thank and shout out Coach Cronin and Coach Sullivan enough. What Tyler Sullivan has done with our weight program is absolutely incredible, to the point where some other teams here have actually hired him at Seton Hill to do their strength and conditioning. Unmatched passion in terms of developing our hitters, our infielders, and just really challenging our guys to get better physically. And you're seeing it. Like all the hard work that Tyler's put in, you're seeing these freshmen just make leaps and bounds in a short period of time. And I'm pretty optimistic you're going to see our work in the weight room transfer to production on the field, and that's a testament to Tyler. And Coach Cronin, I've kind of passed over the recruiting coordinator responsibilities to him. This is a discussion for another time, but we have 16 commits already for next year in the 21 class.
He's doing some work then.
We're absolutely just thrilled to know these 16 guys are going to be here at Seton Hill for the next 4 years. And that's a testament to his hard work. And I think you also see some more hard work and dedication from Coach Cronin when you see our guys pitch this spring. Some of the advancements and innovation and creativity and everything that he's done with our pitching staff, I'm already seeing the positive results from it. So those guys are they're invaluable. The work ethic and the passion they bring every day is so infectious.
Well, I can't believe we're only, depending on when people are watching this, maybe a little over a week away from the season opener. It'll be on March 6th, weather permitting, against Shippensburg. We're very excited to, again, really excited to be broadcasting Seton Hill baseball this year. Maybe we'll finally get to be in the press box. I don't know. I mean, we were looking forward to it last year. It was there. I got a chance to, check it out a little bit, stay a little warm, and then the season got canceled. So hopefully, watch, the first day it'll be like 70 degrees or something, like a record high or something. I'm like, well, now we're sitting in this press box.
Oh, you can open the windows.
That's
man.
True. Let the breeze blow in. One thing I did want to ask you, Maz, before we get to Jamie, you are allowing fans at all games, but they have to make sure they wear masks and are socially distanced, right?
Yeah, we're pretty thankful to the university that they acknowledge how important it is to have parents and families and people come watch these guys play. So yes, masks, social distancing, no tailgating this year. But we got a lot of room at the ballpark, and people can spread out and enjoy Griffin baseball this spring.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. I always say, Maz, this is my most fun time of the year, getting a chance to cover you guys, whether it's a COVID-style season or not. At least we're playing baseball, and I know that there are some changes as well for the PSAC tournament this year. I was talking with Jason Green about. So there, it was supposed to be moved to Slippery Rock last year in a traditional format. 4 teams from each side. Everyone was supposed to go to Slippery Rock and play. Obviously, that didn't happen, and now this year they're changing that because of COVID, where not all the teams will go into one location. It'll be broken down a little bit differently. So.
Yeah, and I think that is a great opportunity. That means that, of course, we got to take care of business during the regular season, but there's an opportunity for us to host a lot of postseason games. And I'm pretty sure that has not happened here. Seton Hill has not hosted a postseason baseball game since 2006 when we were in NAIA. Right? And we've had a lot of success in these 8-team and 6-team tournaments. I love it, going to one place and just battling it out for 4 days. You find out who the best team is, but man, it's going to be pretty extra special to host some postseason baseball here on the Hill, and hopefully we get there.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
How about it? Maz, thank you so much. Can't wait to see you guys on the Hill this year.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate the opportunity.
Appreciate it. That is Coach Mark Marizaldi, the only head coach in the history of the Seton Hill baseball program, 17 years. Probably would have won his, 600th game last year if it wasn't for COVID. Not that you care about that type of stuff, but I think that's what we were rolling towards.
Okay.
For the program. So
maybe we'll get there someday.
I think so. All right, let's take a break. We'll take this break for Seton Hill University Athletics, and then we will talk with Jamie Rabel, a senior for the Griffins this year, as our 2021 Seton Hill University baseball season preview show continues.
When I first came back, one of the first things that blew me away was our facilities. How the fields have grown up in that whole complex down the hill. Our weight room now, how that has been, remodeled and changed and overhauled.
Our baseball field is, in my opinion, one of the best in the nation, Division II wise. And just having Sullivan Gym open for us all the time with the nets in there whenever we wanted to get work in, which is possibly why I got to where I am, because all the extra work that I did put in.
I think our facilities are one of the best across the PSACs, and that's definitely a huge recruiting tool as we are able to draw the athletes for the academics in addition to the great things they can get on the athletic side of it.
I don't think I would be able to thrive in a big school. I think I like that the professors know my name. I like that when I'm walking down the hall I can say hi to someone and I actually know them.
Welcome back to the Griffins baseball season preview show as we look at the 2021 Griffs. You heard from Maz, and now it is time to talk with the senior from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Bishop McDevitt High School. He is Jamie Rabel. Always love talking to Jamie, whether it's on the air, whether it's off the air. Buddy, it's great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Flick. Not only thank you for doing this, but for all that you guys do at Westmoreland Sports Network. You guys put together an awesome broadcast, and I know a lot of people back home, especially my folks, really appreciate that. Well,
thanks, Jamie. I got to say hello to your dad, who is a great guy, Jay, who we constantly get to see. I always love to see him in Florida. Unfortunately, this year we didn't get a chance to see him.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll get to see him.
And I'm sure we'll get to see him on the Hill.
He'll be out.
And of course, your grandfather, I know he's battling right now. We're with you. He emails in so often and listening, watching our broadcast.
Sure.
Great guy. You have a great family, and I just want to say that we're with you. And
thank you, Flick.
And hopefully everything works out for you, buddy. Again, just a great family. So, what's the excitement level? I mean, you missed last year. You get to play a few games, right? 9-4, great start for you, but obviously the season, the rug pulled out from under you. I just felt so bad for you guys because I was just with you coming home, from Florida, and a lot of excitement, and then, the rug pulled out from under you. But you guys get to play baseball this year. March 6th, your opener against Shippensburg. What's the excitement level like?
Oh, man. So last year was just devastating end to the season, and I think it's, at this point, almost been a year since our last game. And I think everybody over quarantine and everything, they just focused on their responses and things that they can control. And that's one thing that COVID taught us. It's not about what happens, it's about how you respond to it. And I think the guys have been doing that. And over these past few months, I think we've just done an excellent job preparing, and everyone's just really excited and eager to get back out on the field.
During these season previews, Jam, I've been asking everybody, especially the student athletes, just kind of what you guys went through, like mentally, to be able to overcome that last spring, and what are some of the things that you did to make sure you stayed focused on academics, stayed focused on keeping yourself in shape, and all those things. Can you kind of take us through your spring and what it was like last year?
Yeah, like I said, it was devastating and heartbreaking for those seniors. That was an awesome senior class. They just had a bunch of leadership and great guys on and off the field. So it was sad to see their season and their last year end like that. But like I said, it was just guys focusing on their responses and the things that they can control. So that's what we did over quarantine. And I think we got pretty creative with what we did, those home workouts and stuff like that. So we were able to stay in shape and persevere through those tough times of quarantine.
Did you binge watch anything, like any Netflix or anything, or did you get into
here and there, but
yeah. Mostly just focused on.
Yeah, trying to.
Yeah, exactly. How did the Zoom meetings go? I know you guys had a ton of those, and I was actually part of one of them. Maz invited me to join you guys when Clint Hurdle talked to you, former Pirates manager, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
But I know you had a lot more Zoom meetings than that. So how did all those go?
Yeah, they were awesome. They were a great way to get guys together because we were all separated, all in quarantine and things like that. So the Zoom meetings that Maz set up were pretty cool. He had Clint Hurdle on. He had a bunch of alumni connection calls. Mm-hmm. So it was cool to hear kind of the perspectives of some of those alumni and hear about what they're doing. And then Maz gave us the opportunity to connect with those alumni after those calls, and some of us did that. So it was really cool to get to know some of those alumni, and thank you to Maz for that opportunity and bringing those guys on.
No, that's really fantastic because I know that a lot of times he does bring some alumni back to speak, but especially now with everything, a lot of things being virtual, to have those guys be a part. And there are not a lot of alumni for Seton Hill baseball because Griffins haven't been around. This program hasn't been around for as long as a Slippery Rock or something.
Right.
But I'll put our alumni up against anybody because they are so engaged and invested, and they really want to see you guys succeed. I mean, do you kind of feel that way too?
No doubt, yeah. One thing we talk about is just the tradition of excellence that these guys established before us, and that's one thing that we try to do is just to live up to that.
So what are some of the things you like about this year's team? Let's talk some baseball here, 2021 Griffins. What are some of the things that you see from a senior now perspective?
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think we have an awesome group of selfless individuals that are all just committed to the same mission, winning the PSAC, winning the regional, and then winning the whole thing and carry. And I think that you'll see guys that are pushing each other, trying to get 1% better every day, and I think that's an awesome culture that we have and chemistry that we got going. So I think we're definitely prepared for the season.
Now, we just talked to Maz about a lot of different players, but I'm just curious. The guys, I mean, we're used to seeing certain guys, but there's a lot of new guys on this team as well, freshmen coming in, transfers. What new guys kind of jump out at you, Jamie?
We got a bunch of new guys, but I would say we have some high-impact freshman pitchers that are definitely going to make a difference in this year's games. Aiden Layton, he's been awesome. Bergert, those guys, Dino, they've been doing a good job in practice, and I think they're going to be ready to compete come start of the season.
What goals would you say you have for yourself this year? How do you want to end your Seton Hill career?
Yeah, so I don't really have any statistical goals, but other than that, just be the best player that I can be, leave it all out there, and be a great teammate. And I think if I do those things, I'll leave with no regrets.
Now, you mentioned some of those freshman pitchers, so I got to ask you this. Who would you say there are a couple guys that are toughest to face in the cage? And I know here at Seton Hill, inside and like Sullivan, it's not easy hitting there.
Yeah.
And when you guys get outside, I know Maz always says it's like hitting a beach ball probably, because you can actually see the ball a little better.
The lighting is definitely a difference.
But who are some guys for you personally that are really tough?
I would say two that come to my mind are Marshall McGraw and Aiden Layton because I faced them recently. Mm-hmm. They just have good speed on their fastball and they have effective off speed, and I think they can locate wherever they want it to, and it's good to see those guys doing well.
I talked to Maz about Marshall. I know he's coming back from Tommy John. How do you kind of see him? I mean, if you just faced him and he was still tough on you, I guess he's on the comeback trail, right?
Yeah, definitely. He's had an awesome recovery journey. He's gotten back up to 88 to 92 velocity-wise, and yesterday was actually his first live day back throwing live hitters. So, and he did an excellent job. So we're excited to see what he can do this year for us.
Jamie, you play an important role on this team. You're a leader. You can play multiple positions in the infield on this team. That's not a role that everybody can easily, jump into and be successful at, but you've played that role very well. It's really since your freshman year that you can move around a little bit.
Yeah, I enjoy part of that just because you get thrown in the fire at any time, and that's something that I absolutely embrace, and it gives you those opportunities to get in there maybe when you least expect it, and just got to take advantage of those opportunities when I get in there.
This kid made a hell of a catch. That was last year, right, in Florida?
Yep.
That missile. I don't even remember what game
Tampa.
it was. It was at the Tampa game. Okay, how can I not remember that? That was unbelievable. I'm sure that's something you'll remember.
Thank you.
and any time that you can beat Tampa, that's something you'll definitely, I'm sure, remember for the rest of your life. I mean, hopefully there's some championships coming this year, but I'm sure that was really exciting for you and the team to knock off the defending national champ.
No doubt.
Jamie, what do you enjoy most about playing baseball? Who's your favorite player? Give us a little rundown.
Yeah, sure. So my favorite thing about baseball is probably just the fun of competing, and on top of that, the relationships that you build through this game. Been playing it for 18 years now, and I think just the relationships that I built along the way have been lifelong relationships and friendships that this game has given to me. So it's been awesome. And for the favorite player, I'd probably go with Chase Utley. Being from Harrisburg,
I was going to say.
I am on the other side of the state, so
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, I do like the Philadelphia sports. So I think Chase Utley, I always looked up to him as a player growing up as a second baseman, and he was just an ultimate competitor.
Well, you don't need to justify it because there's really no one on the Pirates to like right now. I don't even know what their roster even looks like or who half the people are. So now you've been in this program for 4 years, and I guess you've kind of already talked about what makes this program special. But if you could kind of revisit that and just, kind of looking back at it, why is this program so special every year?
I would just say it's because of the culture that we have, and I think that stems from the top down with Maz and Sully and Tim and all the coaches before them. They've just established a strong culture, and they take pride in developing players, both personally and on the field. And I think because they've been able to do such a great job with that, they've just created an awesome group of teams over the years. Mm-hmm. And especially in recruiting, they recruit high character guys that they know will come into this program and flourish. So
yeah, something I've always noticed, and I tell people this all the time since we started covering Seton Hill baseball. The guys are few and far between, if any, that I could say, man, that kid, I don't really like him. You know what I mean?
Right.
All you guys have just been such great people, great character people. You've always, advanced in life and found jobs and just became really great people out of it. And it feels like, for Seton Hill baseball, not every program does that. And I feel like Seton Hill baseball does that maybe better than anybody that I know.
Definitely. And I think part of the reason that's like that is because of the challenges that we go through here. We push each other every day to be the best versions of ourselves, and that's something that's pretty unique from a sports team. You don't really see that everywhere. Guys just pushing each other, and those relationships that we have are definitely unique.
Are there any games on the schedule? I know Mercyhurst is always one, but when you look at the schedule, what kind of gets you excited?
I would just say these first few games coming up, we're really looking forward to getting back out there and competing. But after that, we've kind of adopted an attitude of it doesn't matter who we're playing. We're going to treat every game the same. And if we can do that, I think all of our goals will work out, and we'll have a good year.
Here's the biggest question I'm going to end you with. Why'd you decide to get a haircut? Last time I saw you had the locks flowing, and you look a little different now, buddy.
Yeah, so we were supposed to do that versus cancer fundraiser last year.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah,
so we're actually doing it again this year.
Okay, great.
But with last year's season getting canceled, myself and a few other guys, I know Tommy Pellis did it. We decided to shave our heads for those that we know with cancer because
fantastic.
One thing that was going on at the time was my aunt was going through breast cancer, and she lost all of her hair. So I actually decided to shave my head for her, and
Oh, wow.
I ended up donating 8 inches of hair. So.
Wow, that's great. I know, I was going to say it was getting pretty long
Yeah.
last year, so that's great you did that. And that's really great that the program continues to do that, you know.
For sure.
There's so many people, you know, that are battling cancer, and, you know, it's great that Seton Hill pretty much annually tries to do something, you know, to help those people. And it's not all about just donating hair. It's just, you know, showing that you're with them. You know what I mean? Showing that you're on their side, and you kind of support them and everything. So again, I want to say hello to your grandfather, Joe, and hopefully you'll be able to catch some games this year, and we'll definitely give you a bunch of shout outs, buddy. So we're here with you. Jamie, so excited for Griffins baseball this year. I can't wait to get started. See you guys out in the field on March 6th, weather permitting, hopefully. And I know you guys will be competing for a championship this year. Thanks a lot, man. I love talking with you.
Heck yeah, thank you, Flick. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. That is Jamie Rabel, senior from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Bishop McDevitt High School. And that wraps up our Griffins baseball season preview show. Don't forget, you'll be able to watch and listen to Seton Hill baseball games once again this year on the Westmoreland Sports Network. All postseason games will also be on WSN. We'll be talking with guys like Jamie after games, and we'll talk to Maz before games, and it'll be a lot of fun for another year. Until then, it's Jamie Rabel. I'm Dan Flickinger. We'll talk to you on the Hill soon on the Westmoreland Sports Network.